A short while ago, I met a Liverpool-based landlord with 64 buy-to-let properties. His properties were over-leveraged, under-rented, and he was struggling to exit his portfolio. And this got me thinking, what does the future look like for most investors' property portfolios? Most property investors watch the good side of property on YouTube. They see the successful property flips, they see the Lambos, they see the people that have built property portfolios that allow them to leave their jobs, including me. You might have watched me back when I was working for someone else, doing all hours under the sun, and now you've seen me move over to become a business owner, work for myself, and live as a full-time property investor. But a trend that I have noticed is that when you ask a lot of property investors, what will you do with your portfolio in 20 years' time? Well, not many people have an answer. And this is a problem. I believe we should always begin with the end in mind. And before I go on to explain my ideas in more detail, if you haven't done your first property deal, then do not focus too deeply on this video. You simply need to just get started. Do the first deal, make the first mistake, or hopefully make the first bit of money, gain the experience, and then move on to thinking deeper about the future of your portfolio. For those of you that are a few properties in, you need to ask yourself this: what will you do with your property portfolio at 50 years old? And more importantly, what does your life look like at 50 years old? You see, I can tell you what mine looks like. I'm located in the south of France for a large part of my year. Every morning I get up and I walk along the seafront, perhaps in Cannes, to collect my morning newspaper, if newspapers are still a thing then. I buy some fresh food, I replenish my cigar collection, then I walk home debating my plans for the afternoon, so that once I've got back, I've made my investment decisions for the morning, had a nice lunch, what's my plan for the afternoon? And obviously, that's just this kind of dream, this idea that I build up in my head in order to chase that goal and make that a reality. But that's really important for you to think about. Why are you doing this in the first place? And as for my property portfolio, well, it's going to have reduced in size. It's going to be debt-free, and it will only have the best buy-to-let units remaining and earning me good money each month. Now, after hearing that, there are going to be a few different types of people. There's 3 of them, I believe, to be exact. We, first of all, like me, have the lean machine, okay? Someone that wants to build a portfolio up, but then reduce that debt down and have a lean portfolio going into their retirement. We then have what I call the leveraged lunatic. Okay, yes, I'm obviously making these up and it's a bit of a joke, but the leveraged lunatic builds a massive portfolio and is saying things like, I'm gonna die with all my debt, silly remarks like that. They're just building, leveraged and over leveraged, to be quite frank, and not thinking about what that future looks like. And then last but not least, you have the quitter, okay? Definitely don't be this guy, don't be the quitter. Really, the quitter is someone that gets started, thinks they're going to build a portfolio, finds it all too stressful because a couple of mistakes happen, and then they just exit out way earlier than retirement and they leave, okay? Don't be the quitter. No one likes them. Nothing in life comes easy. So if you can't handle when property goes wrong or gets stressful, then probably just don't even get started in the first place. But today I'm going to focus on the lean machine, okay? This is what I will be doing with my portfolio over the upcoming 20 years. And I don't agree with people that want to remain leveraged up to their eyeballs into retirement. In fact, the only time I think it's appropriate to do that is when you are building a multi-generational business to then pass down onto the generations below. And even then, I think it's better to probably at least reduce some of that debt so you don't pass it on to someone else. So to start with, here are my beliefs around building an efficient property portfolio. To start with, I think we should be focusing on cash flow. I mean, we should always focus on cash flow in the sense that properties should always cash flow. You shouldn't buy something just for the sake of holding it and hoping it's going to go up in capital value and capital appreciation, because you need a property to cash flow to offset things that can come up. So I think many of us start with this in mind, and I think this is the right place to go, okay? That might mean going to a slightly lower value area in order to make your capital work harder and return higher. So we focus on cash flow first, and I think that's where you should maybe spend the first 5 years of your growth, focusing on that to build up income and bring that in. But then I think we should, at some point when we've got the income, not continue to just buy properties purely off the basis of yield or return on investment. And then we should start to think more about wealth. Okay, and what do I mean by wealth? Okay, well, we should start to think about that, yes, the income is what's going to allow us to build this bigger, maybe leave our job, etc. But it's wealth that actually where the true money is made in property. And we can build up our wealth by increasing our net wealth or our net value, okay? So by buying higher value properties, by buying things that might expose you to more capital growth, using the cash flow that we built up, will then allow us to build a higher value portfolio. So we then basically use the cash flow, then start buying potentially higher value properties or properties in better areas to then build up our wealth. Once we've done that, okay, these are different stages, I believe, of building that efficient portfolio, thinking about the future, not thinking about the short term. Once we've built wealth, well, it's no good having all those higher value properties if everything is absolutely leveraged to the nines. We then need to start thinking about the debt that we have and doing some tax planning, okay? Again, if you're not thinking about these things in the future, then they are going to come to bite you at some point, unless, again, you're planning to pass this down the line. But for many of us, I believe, we are planning to build something to allow us this kind of comfortable, cushy lifestyle going into retirement. So I think the next stage for us is to be thinking about debt and tax planning. So we've built the cash flow, we're building up wealth through higher value properties. Now we need to start thinking about how can we reduce down the debt, and how can we then plan for the tax implications of selling some of those properties in the future, okay? Or how can we extract as much money from that portfolio for a comfortable lifestyle with as little tax as possible. And then, of course, once we've done that, once we're successfully in this phase of doing that, we can then start to think about our retirement planning, okay? As I said, for many of us, this is what we've got in mind for the future, okay? Yes, we're building this to create something now, but we're also creating a certain lifestyle in the future. So once we've started to reduce that debt down, then we can start to think about, what does retirement look like? How do I get the income that I want from this property portfolio whilst having reduced lots of debt and obviously efficiently planned for taxes? So that's what I believe are like the 4 stages of building an efficient portfolio, thinking about the retirement side of things, not thinking about the short-term side of things. So hopefully this has got you thinking. I really want for this to be kind of a thought-provoking exercise for you so that you can go away and think about, how does this apply to my plans and my property investing journey, all right?